So now we are going to take a tour of Xcode when we are in Storyboard. All right, so open up your Storyboard, and I'm going to close the debug area down here. And first thing I want to do is point out the object library. All right, so if you've used anything previous to Xcode 10, then this used to be down here at the bottom of the inspector pane. But now it's this little button here, and it pops out, and you can search in it. You can change it to the grid view if you like. But yeah, so it's here now. And if you, let's see here, let me scroll down here to grab something. If you pull something out, it automatically dismisses, and you can bring it back up with the shortcut Command-Shift-L. And if you're going to be dragging in a bunch of things, then what you can do is you can, when you start to drag, hold Option and then drag in, and then it will stay open until you close it. All right, so that is where the object library is. And I guess I should say, if you haven't used the object library before, this holds all of the elements that we can drag and drop right here into our storyboard. We have things like view controllers and navigation controllers and tab bar controllers. We have labels and buttons and text fields and sliders and switches and tons of cool stuff that you can add to your app, to your storyboard. And yeah, I mean, there's some new stuff in here that people haven't like really picked up and started using yet. So yeah, there's quite a bit of stuff in here that you can use. All right, so check all those things out, and it's pretty helpful. All right, so I'm gonna close that and delete these. And over here on the left, we have what is called the document outline. And there's this little tiny button down here that opens and closes it. Sometimes it's closed, and beginners, they don't know how to open it. That can be frustrating. All right, so basically what it is it's just the document outline for all of the elements that are in our storyboard. We have one view controller scene so far. And so you can see here we have the view controller. Inside of that is a view. Inside of that view is a safe area and a welcome label. And we'll talk more about safe area in the upcoming lessons. That helps with designing for iPhone 10. But yeah, then we have our welcome label here. And so checking out our label over here, we are in the interface builder, and not much to say about this. This is where you can add your elements and drag things around and make your app look pretty. Down here where it says view as, we can click on this and we can change the view that our view controller is representing. So for instance, if I click here, we have now an iPad Pro 9.7. We can go all the way down to a 4S, to a SE. Check out the iPhone 10. And just to make sure that our layout looks good on all of these different devices, I'm going to go back to an iPhone 8 Plus here. And you can also change the orientation here. All right. Here we have a zooming, so we can zoom in and out using these buttons. If you have a trackpad, you can also zoom by pinching in and out. So that's handy. You can also pan with 2 fingers. Okay. There we go. All right, so these 5 buttons down here, these are used in auto layout, and we'll be going into depth on those starting next lesson. All right, and then over here we have our inspector pane, and these first 2 won't be using much in storyboard. This one here is the identity inspector, and oh yeah, you have to have a UI element selected for these. So this is the identity inspector. Mostly we use this if we have subclassed a class. So if we had like a subclass of a UI label, then we would type in that custom class right here so that it took on the behavior of our custom class. And here we have our attributes inspector. This is probably where you'll spend most of your time. This is all of the properties of a UI element that we are able to customize. You can change the color, you can change the font, at least for UI labels. You can change the alignment, let's see here, the background, etc. All right, so anytime you need to customize something, this is where you would want to come. And let me just drag in something here. Let's say a button. So this menu here is different for each one. So here's for a label, and here is for a button. You can see that we have different things. Here we have things like, is it interaction enabled? We have state of selected, enabled, highlighted, all that kind of stuff. You can have an image for your button, what kind of type it is. So that's illustrating how the properties in this attributes inspector change depending on what UI element is selected. The next menu is our size inspector, and so you can specify the width and height, change that to 300, and you can see that that grew. This is also where our constraints are going to show up in the next lessons. And finally, we have our connections inspector here, and this is where we will see what connections a UI element has. This one has a connection to our view controller that we created in the last lesson, this IB outlet right here. Okay, so this is a good place to show you a very common mistake that people starting out make. So a lot of times they'll add an IB outlet and then they'll be like, no, I don't actually want this. So they'll delete it in code, thinking that that is also deleting the connection in storyboard, and then they'll run it. And it will crash, and we'll get this error here in the app delegate saying signal sigabort, which isn't super helpful. And they'll look here in their console, and they'll see this thing right here, and like this just looks like a bunch of nonsense. And so they get really confused about what is happening. And this is kind of a generic error, so this isn't helpful at all. But don't panic. What you need to do is scroll up to the top. When you get this error, scroll up to the very top and look for where it says terminating app due to, and then look for a reason, okay? And here it says this class is not key value coding compliant for the key welcome label. All right, so that's not super useful either, but that's something that we can at least Google, right? Now, here's a tip. Don't include things that are specific to your app, things like variable names, because not everyone has or uses your variable name. So when you Google it, that might actually not be helpful. So I'm going to copy this up to right there. Copy that, and I'm going to open up browser, and I'm just going to paste that right here. And now you're going to see a glimpse into the way that I debug. I'll Google the error, and then I will just open up like the first 4 or 5 results, and I will then tab through these and quickly take a look at what we have here. And because I know what the problem is, I can see that this one actually has the correct answer. This says that this means that you have something on your storyboard connected to the IB outlet, but you don't have this IB outlet in your class, okay? So if you were Googling this and you saw that and you go, oh, that might be what I did because I deleted the IB outlet in my class. So what does it say to do? It says you should find that button in storyboard, click right mouse button on it, and click X to delete that connection. All right, so let's go back into Xcode and into storyboard. And if we right click here on view controller, we can see the segues and the outlets, presenting segues, etc. that our view controller has. And right now you can see that this has a little yellow warning sign. And that means that there's something wrong here. It says that the view controller does not have an outlet named welcome label. And that's because we deleted it. But we also have to delete it here in the storyboard. So just click on that little X right there, and then we can run it, and we are back up and running. All right, so let's say that you made a mistake deleting that, and we're gonna Command Z to bring that back. Now, this is not connected anymore. And you could do this a number of different ways, but here is a pretty quick way. You just right click on view controller, get our welcome label IB outlet, and you can see that it is an empty circle, which means that there isn't a connection yet. So all you do is just click and drag over to the one that you want to connect, and now that is back connected. And if we come to our hello students and go over to our connections inspector, we can see that that is connected back up again. All right, so remember this when you inevitably accidentally do this and you get that SIGABORT error, scroll up to the top, find what the reason is, Google it, and that will help you out immensely. All right, so strap in for the next several lessons. We are going to learn about auto layout. All right, I'll see you then.